Hi everyone, welcome back to another video in the Web Security Academy series. In today's video, we'll be covering lab number 6 in the Access Control Vulnerabilities module, titled Method-Based Access Control Can Be Circumvented. If you do not have an account on the Web Security Academy, you can get one by visiting the URL portswigger.net/websecurity and clicking on the sign up button. I already have an account and I am logged in, so to access the exercise, I'm going to click on Academy, go down, select the learning path, go down again, select Access Control, and then go down to lab number 6, titled Method-Based Access Control Can Be Circumvented. Alright, let's get started. This lab implements access controls based partly on the HTTP method of requests. You can familiarize yourself with the admin panel by logging in using the credentials administrator admin. To solve the lab, log in using the credentials of this user over here and exploit the flawed access controls to promote yourself to become an administrator. Alright, so the target goal of the exercise is to exploit a broken access control vulnerability in order to promote the user that we were given, so the regular user, to become an administrator. And the way that we're going to do that is first we're going to log in using the administrator account and learn how the functionality that promotes a user works. And then after we learn how that functionality works, we're going to try and exploit it from our regular user account. Okay, let's access the lab. And while that loads up, you could see over here that this browser is the built-in browser in Burp, and therefore we don't have to configure it to send requests to Burp because it's done by default. So all my requests should be in the HTTP history tab over here. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is log in with the admin account and see how that functionality functions. So administrator, and I believe the password was admin. Okay, so we're logged into the administrator account. If we click on admin panel, you could see that there's a functionality to upgrade or promote a user into an administrator user. You could also downgrade a user. So let's try and upgrade our Carlos user, because this is the user that we were given and I don't want to mess with it right now. So let's upgrade our Carlos user, click upgrade, and here we go. This is the request that is being performed. It's a post request. Let's send this to repeater and look at it. So over here, the endpoint is /admin roles. And if we go down, it takes in the username of the user and the action that they want to perform. So upgrade is to promote the user. And I'm guessing if we click on downgrade, it'll downgrade the user to a regular user privilege. All right. And it's a post request right over here. Okay, so this looks good. Now we understand how it functions. So let's log out and log in with the regular account privileges that we were given, and then try to see if there's any access control vulnerabilities to promote our user to an administrator user. So hit my account, and then log in with the account that we were given. So the password was Peter, hit login. Now notice over here for our account, we don't see an admin panel because we don't have the privileges of an admin user. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at my account. So if we click on my account right over here, you could see that this is the ID right over here of the user. Let's assume we tested this parameter and it's not vulnerable to any access control vulnerabilities. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the session ID of this user and try to perform this request using the session ID of my regular privileged user. So if I put it right in here, hit send, and here we go. It says it's unauthorized. So this user who has regular privileges does not have the ability to promote a user to an admin user, which makes sense. But if this is implemented incorrectly and the access control is only implemented on the type of method, so let's say the post method, but it's not implemented on the get method, and the get method is allowed, then we might have a broken access control vulnerability. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click and we're going to say change request method. So now it's a get method and the parameters are in the URL. We're going to change this to the account that we're currently working with. So I want to promote my user to an admin user, and I'm going to hit send and see what I get. And here we go, we get a 302. So just because we didn't get an unauthorized, that's already a good sign. And then if we follow redirection, it's a 200 okay. And you could see over here, it says, congratulations, you solved the lab. If we refresh the page, we should see the admin panel because we've promoted ourselves to an admin user. All right, so we successfully completed the exercise by manually exploiting the broken access control vulnerability. Now let's script it in Python. And if you're new to this channel and have no idea why I'm scripting it in Python, it's essentially just because I think that in your pen testing career at one point or another, you'll need to script your exploits, and so might as well start learning it from now. All right, as usual, the first thing that we're going to do is import the requests library. And then the sys library and URL lib3. Okay, and then we're going to disable warnings. Insecure request warnings, so warnings for certificates. And next we're going to set our proxy setting, and the reason we do that is just in case the script doesn't work correctly, we want to be able to debug it in burp. Okay, so HTTP 127.0.0.1 and port 8080. Same goes for HTTPS traffic. It gets sent to where my burp proxy is running, which is HTTP 127.0.0.1, and again, port 8080. All right, next, let's create our main method. So if name is equal to main, then call our main method. And we'll define our main method right over here. So we're going to say if the length of the command line arguments, so sys.argv, is not equal to 2, then we want to print the instructions of how to run the script, because clearly the user doesn't know how to run the script. So we've got usage instructions, the name of the script, which is taken from the command line, and the URL. And then we want to also print an example just so that it's absolutely clear to the user. So example, www.example.com. And again, the name of the script, which is taken from the command line. And since it was run incorrectly, we're going to exit the script. All right, this looks good. So it'll enter this piece of code if the user runs it incorrectly by not giving the script 2 command line arguments. Now, assuming that the user does run it correctly, what we're going to do is first we're going to start a session object. So requests.session. What that does is now when I log in and I use this object in order to perform any subsequent requests, it'll send the cookies of the original request with my subsequent requests, and therefore I don't have to keep doing it with each request. Next, I'm going to set URL to the first command line argument. And then I'm going to call a function called promote to admin that takes in the session object and the URL. And this function will be responsible to exploit the broken access control vulnerability and promote our user to an admin user. All right, let's implement that function. So promote to admin. Again, it takes in the session object and the URL. The first thing we're going to do is log in as the regular user that we were given. And to do that, we need the login URL, which is equal to the URL of the application plus, if we go to proxy right over here and go to login, plus this endpoint right over here. So this is the request to login. Let's copy that. Next, we need the data that was used to log in, so the parameters of the login request. If we go down right over here, it took in two parameters, the username and the password. So let's put that right over here. Username, and that's the username of our regular user. And then password was the password of our regular user. Okay, this looks good. The next step is to perform the request. Now notice right over here, it was a post request. So we're going to say r is equal to s.post. It takes in the login URL. We're going to say data is equal to data login. So our parameters, we're going to set verify to be equal to false because I don't want to verify TLS certificates, and proxies to be equal to proxy so that the request gets sent to burp. Okay, and then I'm going to set the response of the request to a parameter called res. And I need to verify that I properly logged in. So I'm going to say if logout, so the string logout is in res, so it's in the response, then print successfully logged in as the user that we were given. And if it's not, then I'm going to print could not log in as the user that we were given. And I'm going to end the program because if we can't log in, we definitely can't exploit the vulnerability since this is an authenticated vulnerability. All right, so if we go over here, notice that you could only see the logout button. So if you go to my account right over here and it timed out, but if we reload it, you'll see that you could only see the logout button if you're successfully logged into an account. And so that's why we're searching for that string in res. Okay, now assuming that we did successfully log in, the next step is to exploit the access control vulnerability to promote the user to an admin user. And the way to do that is, again, we need the URL for promoting a user to an admin user. So that's going to be URL plus a specific endpoint. If we go back to repeater right over here and we say back, this was the endpoint over here that we used in order to promote our user to an admin user. So we're just going to copy that. And put it over here. Now, since this is a GET request, the parameters are in the URL, and so we don't need a data login parameter or like a data parameter in order to send with the request. And again, this is a GET request, so we're going to say r is equal to s.get. Since we're using the session object, it will automatically send the logged in session cookie of the user. Now the URL is admin roles URL. Again, we're going to set verify to be equal to false because we don't want to verify TLS certificates, and proxies to be equal to proxies so that the request gets sent in burp before it gets sent to the application. Now we need a way to verify that this was properly performed. And so to do that, we're going to say, again, the response is equal to r.text. And if we see the admin panel in the response, then and let's just fix this. Then I want to print successfully promoted the user to administrator because I can only see the admin panel if I have admin privileges. Now, if I don't see the admin panel, that means my exploit failed. So I'm going to print could not promote the user to administrator. And I'll exit the program because it clearly failed. All right, this looks good. Let's reload the page so that we could test our exploit. So while that reloads, let's save this and just go through the script again. If the user runs the script with the incorrect number of arguments, the user will be presented with the usage and example instructions. If the user does run it correctly, what it'll do is it'll call this function promote to admin. In that function, the first thing it's going to do is log in as the regular user that we were given, and then it's going to exploit the access control vulnerability to promote that user to an admin user. If we see the admin panel in the response of the request, that means we've successfully exploited the vulnerability. If we don't, that means our exploit failed. So let's copy this. Go to terminal, new terminal, say Python 3, access control lab 06.py, and the URL of the application, and remove the trailing slash and hit enter, and we get an error. So we've got URL lib3 disable warnings, URL lib3.exceptions.insecure request warning. This shouldn't be warnings. Save it, and let's clear this and run it again. And here we go. It says we successfully logged in as the regular user, and then we promoted the user to an admin user. If we look at the burp requests, you could see the first thing it did is log in with the credentials that we were given, and then it visited the endpoint to promote a user to an admin user, and you could see in the response of the page right over here. So if we look for admin panel, it found the admin panel, and so it concluded that we successfully promoted the user to an admin user. All right, so we successfully completed the exercise by first exploiting the vulnerability manually and then scripting it in Python. In the next couple of videos, we'll look at more complex cases of broken access control vulnerabilities.